Let's take a look at the P-card reconciliation workflow in Concur. We're going to go through all the checkpoints. That way you know how to make it from the beginning to the end and play the game like a pro. Everything begins when you make a purchase with your state-issued P-card. At the time of purchase, make sure you keep your receipt. It's required for completing your reconciliation. Concur has a receipt tracking system, so if you want, you can load your receipts into Concur as you get them. You will also need to report who received the product and the day that they received it. It helps to keep notes as you make purchases throughout the month. That way you don't have to try to track this information down when it's time to complete your reconciliation. Concur will pull charges from US Bank and add them to your account every day. This is a big change from the way we used to do things. Before Concur, P-card holders would reconcile everything on their US Bank statements. This meant that US Bank's billing set the time frame for reconciliations. Now agencies get to choose their reconciliation period. But remember, you'll only submit your P-card reconciliation once a month. When it's time to reconcile your P-card, log into Concur. On the home screen, you'll see the Start a Report button. Click on that to begin. New reports default to the travel policy. When starting your reconciliation, you'll need to change the policy to P-card policy. After you've changed the policy, you'll need to enter a report name, a business purpose, and the date range you're reconciling. When you add expenses to your reconciliation, they will default to the FINET coding on the report header. Concur will default the FINET coding string in the report header to your default payroll coding. If you know the majority of the expenses will be coded to another FINET coding string, you can change the coding on the report header, which will save you time when you're completing your reconciliation. If not, don't worry. You can change the coding string of any expense as you complete the reconciliation. Now that you've created the header, you're ready to add expenses. When you click Add Expenses, Concur will bring up a list of expenses from your P-card. Select the expenses for the item or services that have been received and add them to the reconciliation. You need to select an expense type for each expense. The expense type describes what you purchased, like office supplies or protective equipment. Concur will assign an object code based on the expense type, and multiple expense types can be applied to one receipt. Next, enter the business purpose for the purchase. The business purpose is why you purchased the item. Now that you've entered the what and why of the purchase, you need to record who received it and when they received it. Remember, this information can be hard to track down a month after a purchase, so it helps to keep notes as you make your purchases. If the item was purchased from a vendor who is contracted with the state, you must add the contract number. There's also a comment area where you can add notes that you'd like the approvers to see. After you enter all of the purchase details, you need to attach a receipt to the expense. If you uploaded receipts into Concur as you got them, you can attach them from Concur to the expense. If not, you can upload receipts from your computer. If your receipt had multiple items on it, you may need to itemize and allocate the expenses. Remember, you must itemize expenses before you allocate them. If you try to allocate first, the allocation will reset when you itemize the receipt, and you'll have to do it again. Now that you've itemized and allocated the expenses, you're ready to move to your next expense. For every expense, you'll need to enter expense details, attach a receipt, and itemize and allocate if needed. Once you've done this for all of your expenses, you're ready to submit your P-card reconciliation. After you submit your P-card reconciliation, Concur will route it to the right cost object approver, also called a budget officer, for review and approval. After the cost object approver has approved the reconciliation, Concur will send it to your supervisor for review and approval. As the reconciliation moves through each approval step, you'll receive an email notification. Once fully approved, the P-card expense will be recorded in FINET. Outstanding P-card expenses in Concur will be monitored to ensure they are reconciled and recorded to FINET in a timely manner. Now you know the P-card process from beginning to end, and you're ready to reconcile like a superstar. Remember, there are step-by-step guides available to walk you through the whole P-card reconciliation process.